Good afternoon, class. My name is Kenneth Ramirez, and the following is a small recollection of my life so far. Let's start at the beginning with the people who created me and gave me life. There is my father, Kenneth Wayne Ramirez, the man that I look so similar to that people constantly remind me as if it never occurred to them we were related. Seriously, every holiday season, Theo and Theas from out of town just can't help but say I'm growing more similar to him each year. Then there is my mother, San Juanita Bautista, probably my favorite parent. Just kidding, Dad. A strong woman born to a family so large in numbers they might as well have their own island and call it Isla de Bautista. I mean, it's not a Mexican family unless there's so many Theos and Theas that they just use nicknames for themselves. So eventually these two people found love, and we all know what happens when two adults love each other very much. They get married. Fun fact, this picture was taken at the end of May 1993. A few months later, on September 3rd, 1993, I myself was born at McAllen Medical Center, which means I'm actually in this picture, just doing my thing, being created in my mother's womb. Anyways, I am born, and so begins a life of many good things with a side of a few terrible moments in my life. I began my childhood out in Mission, Texas, the rural area along Inspiration Road, a place with no paved road until like 2000 something. Seriously, one day was all dirt and rock, and the next black asphalt. In 1995, we welcomed my younger brother, Brandon Wayne Ramirez, and then eventually my sister, Brittany Lynn Ramirez. Even though I never had a traditional neighborhood life, like skateboarding with friends next door or playing baseball on the street like a 1950s white kid, instead my dad had us taking care of dogs, chivos, and cows. At one point I had my own calf, but the poor little cow didn't make it, got sick, and died. It was really sad. Instead of watching cartoons on Saturday morning, my dad had us either cutting the grass in the hot sun or cutting down the mesquite trees that grow on the property. In 2005, my grandfather, Alcadio Bautista, had passed away. It was such a hard year, especially for my mom. He was a monumental father figure to my mother, the reason why she carried such exceptional family values. I don't doubt my grandfather was a great man. I mean, he crossed the border along with his wife, my grandmother, Josefina Bautista, as well as with his two children. He sacrificed so much and worked so hard in order to give his family a better life. The one regret I have is that I never really got to know him, and that is due to the language barrier. In almost every case, we should be able to speak the language our family was created with. At least that's how I think. My dad had a different way of seeing language. In the early years of my youth, he believed speaking English would benefit me so much more than my native language. It would be just me and him, no one else to sort of translate to me what he was saying. Just me being there, understanding what he's saying, because I embraced that part of myself. Rest in peace, Grandpa. Another contributing factor to my yearning for my missing culture is my grandmother from my dad's side. What is particular about her is that she is white, Yolanda Turner, a woman I never got to meet because she passed away before I was born, yet I carry a part of her with me. This is also how I carry her heritage with me that highlights my missing Mexican heritage. I don't know much about my white side of the family, yet I have allowed it to dominate my identity through either my dad not encouraging Spanish speaking or my own sheer ignorance in not embracing the Mexican heritage. This all culminates in a troubled identity crisis. Especially at the age of 25, I now wonder what could have been if I embraced my culture and not be ashamed of it. Growing up, I always had a lighter skin tone. My name, Kenneth, very white, and in my own accent itself, I didn't sound like the kids I grew up with. And I got that from my dad. I looked at my dad and saw that being and embracing the whiteness would benefit you so much more than that brown part of us. In high school, I began to hate my own culture. I began to just look away from it, ignore it, and just embrace a side I thought would be better for myself. Like I said before, ignorance. After I graduated high school, I needed to decide what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. I felt like I was not so great at school, and I didn't do much school work to get into college, so eventually I joined the military. This is the point of my life where I started to see these cracks in my own identity. I noticed myself being confused. I was confused because back home, I embraced that sort of white side of me, and it was very easy to live. But as I started my naval career, I noticed actual white people not liking me just because of my last name. To them, it was some sort of joke, but to me, I started to see it as some sort of insult as to who I was. As I attended this class in the fall semester, Mexican American Studies has really opened me up. It has forced me to look at my own self and say, hey, you've ignored this for far too long. It's time to listen. It's time to see. This class has taught me to acknowledge and appreciate those things in my life. Not only that my family had to deal with, whether it be sacrifices or the hard work off their backs, but the people in my community across Texas, from both sides of the border, the US and Mexico. Those people weren't ashamed, not like I was. Those people embraced it and they fought, and it's only insulting that I would have turned my back on them. That's why for my future life, with the kids that I raise, I want them to embrace all parts of their life. I want them to be able to speak Spanish within the household and carry the last name of Ramirez with pride, and not to be ashamed of where they're coming from.